Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. So today, just gonna mess around a little bit. I was gonna look at the stock market. I don't know, nothing really to look at. Same old stuff. Um, but today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the tax proposal. So basically, Biden has put forth some tax proposals here, and in this case, there's a proposal that he's putting forth to basically limit the 1031 exchange. So this affects real estate investors. And so want to talk about that. And let's try to theorize what kind of issues this, what effect this might have. And if you want to know more about it, like meet Kevin, he had a good video on it, really talked about it a lot. This is just my sort of take on it. So a 1031 exchange is what it basically is. If you own a rental property and you go to sell that property, you do not have to pay capital gain taxes on the gain if you roll those gains over into a new, basically more expensive property. I mean, there's all these rules about it, but generally speaking, it has to, you have to be able to roll in all the gains. If you do that, then you don't have to pay taxes on the money. So let's take a really simple example, just for educational purposes here. So let's say I had bought a 2-unit building for $500,000, and let's say I go to sell it 5 years later for $1 million. So I have 500,000 in gains. Now I would have to, and this is a rental property, so this is not my personal property. That would be, it has a little different, there's a different exemption there for your personal residence. But based on that, what if you didn't have a 1031 exchange, then what would happen is, if you had, so you basically bought a property for 500,000, you sold it for $1 million, call it, you have a $500,000 gain, just keep it really simple. Then you'd have to pay taxes on that 500,000. Now, but with the 1031 exchange, you don't have to pay taxes on that 500,000 if you roll that 500,000 of equity into a new property. So basically what would happen is, you started out with spending 500,000 for a property, and now you're going with whatever down payment you had, and now you're going to go, and now you're going to have this $500,000 profit that you use as a as your down payment to buy the next property. So what happens is, this is really beneficial to real estate investing, right? Because what happens is you basically get gains and you don't have to pay taxes on it. Now you're required to put that money. You can't like take that money out. You can't take that $500,000 profit and go buy a car with it. You can't do that. It has to be incorporated into the new property. So basically you have to put that money into the new property. So basically it becomes part of the down payment, something to that effect. And if you meet those requirements, and there's all these requirements and all these rules about it, there's a lot, there really is a lot there that you have to do. But if you meet all those requirements, then you don't have to pay taxes on that money. So what this does, this allows, and it has an interesting effect. And not only just the tax effect, the issue is, you think about it, what is one of the biggest problems as humans that we have is, like, we get our hands on money, we just tend to spend it, right? So this particular tax rule, 1031 exchange, is a way of keeping your hands off the money. And so this is why, one of the reasons why real estate investing has been incredibly powerful. There's many very rich people that invested in real estate. And this is one of the reasons. Not only do you get the tax benefit, and remember, it's cumulative. It's like, if I go through over a period of 10 or 20 years and I'm going up and up in properties, going up in the value of properties, and I just keep taking any gains that I have and rolling it into the new property so I can get a bigger property, and I don't have to pay taxes. The good thing about that is I'm able to, I'm able to get a larger property and build up my real estate assets. because I mean, I don't have to pay taxes. I mean, think about it. If you, let's say you go back to the case where you bought a property for 500,000, you sell it for $1 million. If you had to pay tax on that 500,000, 50%, you'd only have whatever, 250,000 left to put into a new property. And that should be very prohibitive. So this is the 1031 exchange. I guess it's been around since 1920 something. It's been around a long time. Good question as to why it was put in. I mean, obviously it's sort of beneficial to, people that are pretty well off and investing in real estate. But it also is very beneficial to the people starting out. Like when you're starting out and you buy like a duplex, this is a critical thing. This is how people are able to, build up from a duplex to a fourplex to a 16plex, et cetera, get more doors, right? By using this. Now, if people have to pay taxes every time, it's going to definitely change the game. Now, the proposal from Biden, and I've seen different things on it, so just kind of take it with a grain of salt. But one proposal is like, hey, we'll still let you do this 1031 exchange, but only up to $500,000. So you kind of need to keep this in mind. So what does that mean? So what that means is if you're a big investor and you have multi-unit buildings and you buy a multi-unit building for $5 million and 10 years later it's $10 million, you have $5 million in gains. Normally, you wouldn't have to pay taxes on that as long as you put that into a new building, right? So basically, that would become the down payment for the new building, simply, putting it that way. But now you're going to have to pay taxes on it. But the thing is, if you keep that capital gains, that gain to under 500,000 in the current proposal, then you'll actually be able to 1031 it still. Is what it sounds like, 1031 it. So this is going to be a huge problem if this goes through. And it's going to be a huge problem in a couple ways. First of all, if you're doing real estate and you have a lot of properties and you have multifamily properties, and now you're in a situation where you're like, look, if I sell a property, I'm going to have to pay taxes on it. So are you going to be incentivized to have big properties, $10 million properties, $20, $50 million properties, where even a modest gain in value would you would be stuck paying a bunch of taxes on it, right? So where would the incentive be? The incentive would be not to buy that property in the first place. The incentive would be to hold on to it forever. But the other incentive is that if you got this 500,000, that you can basically like, okay, what is your incentive? Instead of buying, 2 or 3 50 or 100 unit buildings, now what are you going to do? You're going to buy 50 or 100 single family homes, and you're going to set up this basically a treadmill, right? You're going to set up a treadmill where you're going to buy 50 homes, small homes, right? That are you hope will appreciate a lot, and they will if this goes through. These will appreciate a lot, and every year, you basically sell 1 or 2 of them, and so that your cap gains are around 500,000, and you get to write that off. You get to basically allowed to do the 1031 exchange or not pay taxes on that. So what is this going to do? This is going to incentivize big real estate investors that currently would not want to deal with large numbers of single family homes, right? They don't want to deal with it because remember, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money. It's a lot of work and a lot of money to manage these properties. You can imagine if you have a 200 unit building, you can just have, you got a handyman, you got rental people, you got all the people just like all at one place. You hire them all and you can efficiently run and manage and take care and maintain that place. But if you have, 200 homes scattered out all over around a 50-mile radius of an area, it's a lot of money. Every little thing you need to do, you need to send people, have to go driving, have to go drive there to go do maintenance or go rent it or view the property, all these things, right? It gets very expensive. But because of this tax rule, that's exactly what's liable to happen. So it's already a problem, right? It's already a problem that you have these investment funds that have bought hundreds and thousands of houses, to invest in, right? And this has created a problem. This has created a problem where real estate prices have just gone through the roof due to the pandemic, but they've been going up straight since the financial crisis for a very long time. And part of the reason is because investment firms, major Wall Street money is coming in and be like, hey, look, if we can get like 50%, 100% appreciation in 5-6 years, that's a huge return. And we'll figure out how to manage the properties. So we're going to go buy single family homes and rent them out. And that's kind of what has happened. And it has contributed to the shortage of housing that we have, et cetera, et cetera. But now take into that and just add in all the companies and all the people that own larger units. They're going to pile into this. They're going to pile into the single family home market. Why? Because they're going to be like, look, I don't want to buy a $10 million building. Previously, they would, if they had the resources, they would love to step up from a 20 unit, 50 unit to 100 unit to 200 unit. They would do that because why? They are able to more efficiently manage it. It's all like one property and they can more efficiently manage it. It's easier to handle instead of running around going to all these different smaller buildings. But now, because of that particular $500,000 exemption and getting rid of the 1031 exchange, they're going to jump on that. They're going to jump. So now you're basically taking whatever it is, however many trillions of dollars of money that is in, large residential, let's say, commercial real estate, that money is going to now run into residential housing. And so it's gonna, if people like are priced out of the market right now, give it 5 years of this, they're gonna be priced out even more. I would not be surprised if housing prices in some areas double within like 5 years. I mean, I've seen it before in San Diego area, so I know they can move that fast. And it just wouldn't surprise me because you're going to have all this money. It's going to need a place to go. And it's going to go where it's treated the best. And the best way to get treated is to just buy smaller properties and set up kind of a treadmill where you just like roll over a certain amount each year to keep just about under the tax-free the amount that you can write off. And so this is going to really price people out of housing. So it's really bad. It's really bad. But the other thing too, housing is expensive partly because there's kind of maybe a shortage of it. I mean, supply and demand, if there was a lot more housing available, whether it be apartments or houses or whatever, if there was a lot more available, the pricing would be much lower, but that's not the case. There isn't. So you have to understand, like, if you had the money, like, would you go out there and build a 50 unit, 100 unit or 200 unit building right now if you can't 1031 exchange it? And the answer is most likely not, right? Why would you do that? Because, you are not going to be able to take advantage of the tax. There's no tax benefit in it now. So basically, if you build that building and it goes up in value, you're going to have to pay all the taxes on that. So that's fine. I mean, I get it. I understand, people are like, well, these rich people, blah, 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 the deck is, we're just trying to level the playing field. I get what you're saying, but you don't understand the reality. The reality is you're going to have a lot less housing. So across the board, whether you're a renter or a home purchaser, new time, whatever, pricing is going to go up, and it's going to go up a lot. So this is going to exacerbate, and I think potentially seriously exacerbate a shortage in housing in many areas of the country. Because think about it, if these people that have the resources to do this, the companies that have the resources to build these larger complexes, if they get out of it and say, look, we're just not going to do it anymore. We're going to buy, we're only going to build single family, whatever. I mean, you're just going to have a lot less supply. So I think that this is a typical case of, a proposal that is sort of nonsense, right? It's sort of like utter nonsense. It's like, I get it. People are like, we need to level the playing field, this, that, and the other thing. Is like, yeah, I mean, 1031 is it's a pretty juicy deal. It's a pretty heavy duty, like, wow, that's just an amazing kind of benefit, right? So I get getting rid of it. But I think there's a couple of things. If you're going to get rid of it for some, you got to get rid of it for all. So you just have to get rid of the whole thing. You can't put a price on it. You can't say, oh, we'll allow you to have 500,000, because if you do that, you're going to skew the market. And then, if you get rid of the 1031, fine, at least it's equal footing. So people will have to make decisions. Companies will have to make decisions like, hey, look, do I buy single families? Do I buy condos? Do I buy, buy or build multi-unit? If they all get the same tax treatment, then at least that would be less damaging. But as it stands right now, with this $500,000 limit, it's going to potentially be very damaging. So, but in general, a really good question is, why did they have this in the first place? And, this is a really interesting thing. And I don't know the history of it. If you know the history, that would be good. But it's quite possible that this type of thing was created to create housing. And, I don't know if at some time they were like, hey, look, we don't have enough housing. Housing is too expensive because we don't have enough housing. So we want to encourage businesses to build more housing. So how do we do that? Well, we give them a tax benefit for building housing. So, it's kind of an interesting thing, because the current culture is like, we want to demonize everyone, right? People that are making money, businesses making money, you want to demonize them. But on the other hand, they're providing a service, right? So they're providing the housing. And so I tend to think, if you get rid of the 1031 exchange, even for everyone, you're definitely going to have less housing. There's just no other way around it. There's no other way around it, because if you don't have that tax benefit, remember, the tax benefit's there, and it's a pretty awesome tax benefit, but it's also like it's a treadmill that you're getting on. In other words, if you go and you say, hey, I'm going to start building or buying real estate, and I'm going to do 1031s, to get off, you got to pay all the taxes. So you have to kind of commit, you have to commit to, like, look, I'm going to stay in real estate no matter all the problems that are coming up, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. You have to get, you have to get on that treadmill, and you got to keep pedaling. You got to keep running, or else you're going to fall off, right? So you have to, if you decide you don't want to do it, that's fine, but you're going to pay a hefty price. You have to pay taxes on any gains that you had. So that's my thoughts on it. I think that, like, this is these are this unintended consequences. I think that definitely, like, at a minimum, if you get rid of 1031, just, you have to get rid of it for everything. But then, like I was talking about in my other video on what I see as the problems with, like, too much tax on capital gains. Remember, this is stuff that you're doing, that you're risking money. And, once again, this is something that people don't appreciate, but it's like, I get it. If you just work, or even if you don't work, then you don't have no concept of risking money, right? No concept. And you're an easy mark in Vegas. But even if you're working, you still have no concept. If you're not investing anything, then you don't have a concept of, like, well, you can really lose your darn money, and therefore there should be some compensation for that. Because do you want people to invest or not? Do you want companies to invest or not? And I think that we do. If you look at the big picture, you want people to invest. You want to encourage it to some extent. So I think that's it for this one. We'll see what happens. Good luck.